What is going on, everyone? My name is Jared, and I am from TechWorks. So, I am done buying MacBook computers. I am done. That is it. I'm not going to buy another one, and I'm going to tell you why right now. So I've been a long-term Mac fan, Apple fan, since way back when I got my first iPod mini, which was many, many years ago. And ever since then, I always wanted the Mac since that day. And I ended up buying one in 2011 when I went to college and got my iMac. It was a 27-inch iMac, best one I could buy at the time, best one they had in my Apple store. And it was a great computer for a long, long time. And it still works today, actually. I used it in my first professional job. I used it to make many ads, many billboards, newspaper stuff, graphic design stuff. You name it, I did it on that computer, and I only had to upgrade it once, which was to give it more RAM. Towards the end of its days, it had an overheating issue. I ended up fixing it, and then I passed it on to my dad, where he now continues to use it. So that thing's been in service for 7 years, which is just amazing. Since then, I also had the 12-inch MacBook, a 15-inch Retina Mac from 2015, and two 15-inch 2017 MacBooks. And why did I get two? Well, first one I bought was the base model, and then after I bought the base model, I realized that it was not nearly as powerful as I needed. I rendered a few videos, I dropped frames like crazy, took forever to render, and it was hot. Sounded like a jet airplane taking off in my living room, and I could hear it from my upstairs. Normally I would say that's an issue with a computer, with a fan, but it wasn't. It's just how it was. And I'm all for making the laptop thinner, lighter, better, whatever, but at what cost? Well, those laptops are not cheap, and the last one I bought was close to $3,000, and yet it still isn't great. $3,000, the thing should be great. I should have not a problem, and it should last me a very long time, and I just don't see it happening, especially with the class action lawsuits going on about the butterfly keyboard. And I have had butterfly keyboard break. It was on my 12-inch MacBook that I bought a few years prior. I ended up selling it to a friend, and this past year, a few months ago, actually, she messaged me saying, "Hey, do you know how to fix keys on the Mac you sold me?" I remembered it was the really slim one, and I said, "Nope, fortunately I can't." I've replaced whole top cases in Macs to fix a keyboard issue. It's not happening in that one. So it's frustrating that you're spending all this money on a computer that really isn't all that great. And why I say that is company like Razer, right? Razer, the gaming company, created a 15-inch laptop, which is basically the gaming MacBook. It's made of black aluminum, has the same profile, big trackpad, except in their computer, they're fitting in a QMax GTX card, either a 1060 or 1070, a 4-screen touch display, or a 1080p 144 hertz display. Tons of storage, I think 512 or 256, which is fine for this thin and light category, whatever. Now, all of that coming in at under or the same than the MacBook. And the MacBook uses a Radeon graphics card, which is fine. QMax is not a full-size NVIDIA card. It is the slimmed-down version to make these thin and light laptops happen. But it is not bad in comparison when you compare it to their full-size counterparts. And if you decide that you don't want a thin and light laptop, you could go for full-on huge if you wanted it. And at the top end of the $3,000 price category, you could get the top-of-the-line Alienware 17-inch notebook with a Core i9 processor, the new one, a GTX 1080 overclocked, 32 gigs of RAM, and almost 2 terabytes of storage, plus a ton of I/O that you can probably never fill up all at one time. And that's if you decide to ball out and go with the biggest. there's tons of different configurations. My point in this is that for the $3,000 you're spending on that loaded up MacBook Pro from the Apple Store, and I know you can get a slightly different configuration if you order it online, but I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the one you can go in and buy today at your local Apple Store. Just doesn't cut it. You run heavy footage through it, you run a lot of footage through it, it's going to get bogged down. And I feel bad for people if you're running Red camera shooting 8K footage and you're using a MacBook. I don't know how it does it, if it does do it. The redeeming factor is Final Cut, which is a great software that I wish I could have on a Windows PC, because then I would never probably buy another Mac again unless something happened differently. So I say I'm not going to buy one because I just don't feel it's worth my money. I feel I can get a better value coming from a PC. And I do know how to use Premiere Pro just about as well as I know Final Cut. So to me, it isn't a deal breaker using Premiere Pro. I like Final Cut. If I have a preference, I would choose it, but I don't really care at the end of the day how I get my video done as long as it gets done. There's a ton of features in Premiere Pro, which I got overwhelmed when I first started to learn it, but after a while you get used to it. Learn, take some videos, watch some videos, take some classes, you get there. It's not a big deal. And yet, you still have a non-change design in the MacBooks. And apparently, if rumors are correct, Apple wants to merge iOS and macOS together to make this unified experience. And I love the continuity between their different products, but too much continuity, especially between a MacBook and an iPhone, I don't want to have my MacBook be my iPhone. I don't want it to be just a bigger iPhone. I don't want it to look the same, be the same, do the same, just be more powerful. I don't really want that. And especially with all these mobile processor rumors flying around that they're going to run ARM processors and all this other stuff, I really don't want to see a MacBook become a giant iPad with a keyboard. It's not what I'm looking for at all. And again, I still have an affinity for Apple products. I really do. And back in the day, I really thought they were pushing the envelope. And I just don't think that's happening anymore. You know, I know Apple got rid of the headphone jack first. I wouldn't call Courage a innovation. And they obviously got rid of their Touch ID fingerprint sensor in lieu of Face ID, which it is very secure. But choice is good. Having choice is great. Having a phone that can do iris scanning, facial scanning, and a fingerprint, that's fine. If you don't like it, don't use it. But with iPhone 10, you have to use it unless you want just a pin, or if you just want nothing and just a swipe up, which isn't great for security. I just don't feel they're innovating as much. You know, obviously the new iPhone this year will be faster. It'll probably have a better camera, more storage options maybe, I don't know, a new color. But to me, that's not innovation. That's just a needed improvement. Just like every year, I know the phones are going to get faster. That's not like, oh wow, the phones are faster this year. No, they're going to be, because that's just how computing works and how technology works. Your stuff that you have is going to get faster as the processes get more refined and better. It's just how it is. Graphics cards next year will be better than this year. CPUs this year will be better than last year. That's just life at this point. So by having a new phone that is just faster and speedier, that's not it. That's not the innovation, right? And the same with MacBooks. If I get another MacBook that just has a touch bar as an innovation, I'll be pissed. And for that reason for someone who doesn't learn a MacBook using a touch bar, when you get one that has one, you probably won't use it as much as someone learning how to use it firsthand. If your first MacBook was a 2016 with a touch bar, you're going to use that thing a lot more than someone like me, or someone who's used it way longer than me, because you're just used to other things. Hotkeys are quicker. It's just how it is. So I don't understand that. And they have some great products. I love iWatch or Apple Watch or whatever people want to call it. I've stuck with Apple Watch for a long time, and a lot of the reasons why I keep going back to my iPhone is because of my Apple Watch. And I haven't found a wearable I really like as much as that. Even though this watch isn't bad, I still like the Apple Watch more. And I might even, I switch very often, going back and forth. But the one thing I'm not going to switch now is I'm not going to use my MacBook for editing. I'm trying to sell my MacBook, actually, because right now the only thing I use it for is Final Cut. And if I'm not having a great experience on Final Cut with that MacBook, I'm not going to have it. It doesn't make sense to have it. It's just going to collect dust to sit there, and it's a really expensive paperweight if all I use it for is Final Cut and nothing else. They just released, that you can have eGPUs on Macs, which is really nice. Maybe you'll have some gaming on it, but, developers don't really push AAA titles to Mac OS. They just don't. You look at Steam, and it's just not, the library just isn't there. So I digress. Point of this video is to say why I'm not going to have a Mac computer. The only redeeming point of Macintosh right now is the iMac Pro. And the only reason I say that is because of my biggest argument against Mac, and it has been for a while, is price. The point of you could buy or build a computer, whether it be laptop or desktop, more powerful for less money has always been my argument for someone who says, ooh, gee, should I get a Mac or should I get a PC? And I say, well, are you invested in Mac or Apple? And they're like, not really. I'm like, well, consider this. You could build a computer a lot more powerful than you could buy one from Apple most of the time, except for the iMac Pro. So when the iMac Pro came out, it was really targeted towards professionals, which I think is what the Pro lineup should be, not just a slightly better version of the base. That's a whole different story for another time. I don't feel like MacBook Pros are for pros anymore. I think they're just a more expensive laptop. I digress once again. The iMac Pro came out, and I was kind of blown away that they decided to put in some serious power. Now, they did use Vega instead of NVIDIA. Whatever, Vega 64. It's a pretty good card, but it still doesn't hold a candle to, 1080s or 1080 Ti's. And when they put a full-size card in there, you would think they would have went with, the NVIDIA version because it's better and, get into that argument. But they created a computer that was professional quality, professional grade, and it actually came in at a price very similar to what you would build it on. If you tried to build it one for one, which there is some differences, like the iMac doesn't have a separated monitor, it's an all-in-one, you don't have to buy a tower, you don't have, a lot of other stuff involved in that. It was almost the same price, and that made me think, wow, they actually made a computer that's actually worth the money they are costing it for. And you get Mac OS on top of that, and if you're a fan of that, well, that's just a win-win for everybody. I mean, to build, for a Mac to try to compete with my setup here, it'd be a ton of money. And I wouldn't want to see that. I mean, this is the Ryzen Threadripper 16-core CPU, and to buy the Intel version of that alone is several $1,000s, and that's not going to happen. With a 1080 and all this stuff, 64 gigs of RAM, you're looking at an iMac Pro that's super, super expensive. And at that point, well, who knows if it's worth it or not. So that was its redeeming quality this year in the computer landscape for Apple, and I hope that they do something like that for their laptops. I will sacrifice thinness to have power. I'm not saying for them to make it as thick as Alienware, which is like 3/4 of an inch thick. That's big, and for a lot of people, that's too big to carry around every day. You're not going to take the Alienware to a business meeting. You're just not. Maybe if you turn the lights off on it, but RGB is all the rage. People take the MacBooks to meetings. People take the MacBooks to school. I saw a few kids at my college bringing in gaming PCs to class. Very few, myself being one of them. But you don't see that every day, and that's fine if you don't. And if you're going on the thinness scale, there is other manufacturers making thin, light laptops. Asus, MSI, Razer, to name a few, and Gigabyte, all of which are producing a thin and light laptop at around or the same thickness as a MacBook. The build quality may be different, and Apple does have build quality lockdown. The aluminum, there's no flex, it's sturdy. Build quality is top-notch. But peripherals, I/O, power is a different story. So you have thin and lights like Razer giving you a full range of I/O. You have Asus and MSI giving you, again, a full range of I/O with a thin and light laptop featuring a QMax card coming in at or below MSRP for a MacBook Pro. Between that, having problems with the keyboard, having updates that really don't mean squat, like now you get dark mode of Mac OS, whoop-de-doo. I want dark mode on iPhone, that'd be great, but no, we don't get that, we get it for Mac. which is kind of a non-issue. People might want it, but it's not like I did just download the iOS 12 beta, and you know what we got? 4 or 5 new Animojis, and one to create yourself. Which so get this. So Apple created Animoji, Samsung decided to create AR emoji, which is kind of trash, and now Apple goes back and then updates Animoji to have a create your own Animoji. Copycats, I'm telling you. But once again, I digress. Buying a Mac just doesn't make sense anymore. Unless you live and die by Mac OS and you're heavily invested in the apps you've purchased for Mac OS, it doesn't make sense. The Alienware laptop that's coming to my house this week has twice as much power, maybe, as my MacBook. The newest Intel 2666 megahertz RAM that I can upgrade. I can upgrade the hard drives too. There's a couple extra bays in there. And it came in at almost $1,000 less. So if I sell my MacBook, I'm $1,000 ahead, and I can continue on my work like nothing ever changed. Go figure. So anyway, this is why I'm not going to buy another Mac anytime soon unless Apple decides to change their stuff. And you know what? If anyone from Apple ever watches this, any of my friends who are Apple fanatics watch it, please comment below. I would love to talk to you about it and to see why you think differently than me. This is just my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to like it. You don't even have to watch it if you don't want to. But this is just what I feel from a technological perspective and from just a consumer perspective. For someone who, I don't use my stuff every day for my professional career. I mean, my professional career really doesn't utilize a computer much at all anymore. But for what I would call my second career, yeah, I use this stuff all the time on several hours at a rip. And it's just not advantageous for me to go that way anymore. It's not advantageous to go that direction. And I hope maybe someone watches this and says, you know what, maybe I'll think about it. Maybe I will keep that extra $1,000, $500, whatever the price difference comes out to be. Purchases a PC, I can do a whole lot of stuff. Even if you don't game, hey, maybe you can play a couple games on it with your savings, and be happier for it. Be thankful for it. Maybe it'll make your life better. I don't know. Anyway, this was Jared. I am from TechWorks. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, you know what to do. If you want to talk to me about it, please leave a comment. And if not, well, dislike it. That's okay too. I'll take that into consideration. Anyway, I'd love to hear what you guys think about it, what you guys think of the state of Apple is right now. And I will see you all in the next video. See you later.